Hey guys, Youngblood back with you finally. Just to get you guys caught up, I was on vacation for about a week and then came back. Had to close on my new house, which involved moving into it, which was obviously a big pain in the ass. And then followed that up with having to close on my old house, which was also nerve-wracking because technically I had about two houses for 10 days and. Basically, I had a small heart attack every day, just hoping everything was going to work out. So, should be back to my normal video workload now, so you'll start seeing those pop up more frequently. It feels good to be back, and we'll go ahead and jump into it. I guess before we do that, I'll give you some LOL news. I don't know if you had heard yet that Ben Affleck had been casted as Batman for the Man of Steel sequel. I'm hoping it's some online hoax because while I like Ben Affleck, it's really an odd choice for the Dark Knight. So we'll see how that goes. Now, today I actually wanted to talk about the new weapons that have been released in the test server and since have been pulled, as well as some of the reverse maneuvers changes that you guys have been asking about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump on into it. Now, all of these weapons are supposed to be wing-mounted, and I think the idea behind them is they're supposed to be for air-to-air combat. The three that have been released so far have been the Mass Driver, which the description says Mass Drivers are capable of launching two 50mm rounds accurately and at a high speed. The Mass Driver must reload after each shot. The Locust Cannon is Locust Cannons are high-velocity machine guns that boast a high bullet spread and increased magazine size, allowing it to engage targets with less accuracy but still score hits. The fire rate ramps up for a short period while it begins firing. And finally, Coyote Missiles. Coyote Missiles are compact, short-range missiles that lock on to enemy aircraft and inflict light damage. Coyote Missiles can lock on to targets quickly, but have a short lock-on range and lose established locks quickly. Now, with these, I think even though the intent is really to be for air-to-air combat, both the Locust and Mass Drivers may have a place in the air-to-ground role as well. It'll be interesting to see how the damage actually plays out. Currently, the Mass Driver is extremely potent against enemy aircraft and really may give you the best option when dealing with pesky liberators from a long range, where scoring a one-hit kill with the Dalton round, especially with a good lib crew, is challenging. So you can stand back and do a little bit more damage. The Locust Cannons and Mass Drivers both seem like they're going to shine against larger aircraft like the Libs and Galaxies. But especially the Mass Driver is going to be probably a pretty strong option when dealing with enemy ESFs. Now, keep in mind, they're probably going to be changing a lot of these numbers, but the current setup with Mass Drivers and the rotary allows for you to take out an enemy ESF within about 1 second. So, now granted, that's with all the rounds hitting the target. Now, personally, I'm a little torn on how I feel about this. If you're being snuck up on or putting yourself in a situation to have that happen, maybe it's acceptable. I do like having the ability, though, to engage your target, turn around and get involved in the fight. And this seems to be a little too fast the way it stands, being killed in under a second, especially when you're talking about a quick reverse maneuver, you're in about the 2-second range. So if you've got a good pilot that's able to do that much damage that quick, it probably needs some retuning. So yeah, I mean, that's where I think that weapon may become a little problematic, but again, they've been pulled. I don't know why they've been pulled. My guess is they're reworking them, changing some of the attributes, and they're going to put them back on the test server again. Now, Coyote Missiles are basically the strikers of the sky. Quick lock-on, 6 missiles fired, etc. They have a much shorter lock-on range than the Tomcats, or whatever your Empire-specific air-to-air missile is, and they do less damage. Now, what are the benefits to the Coyote Missiles? Well, you've got a quick lock-on, 6 shots to annoy people with, and they actually do splash damage. So if your missile doesn't actually hit the target, it blows, and it deals some damage output. Now, it's not going to do a ton, but it's better than nothing. Now, the downsides on this, they don't really track as well as the other missiles. They have limited range, and they do less damage. So it's like the Striker, but it doesn't have the freaky tracking ability that its TR-specific badass pain-in-the-ass cousin has. So it's not quite the same, but it's kind of the same general idea. Now, with these, they're a better option probably for spinning dogfights than the standard air-to-air missiles, based on the quick lock-on ability. But we're going to really have to see how well they track in that close turning, spinning motion, especially since they got rid of the ability to free look lock-on. which I think is a good thing. I don't personally think that should be in the game, just because I personally don't like air-to-air lock-on missiles, because I think they're skillless and tactless and boring. So you're not going to see me using the Coyote missiles outside of just for testing purposes, because I think lock-ons are just bland and they bore me. I'd much rather have a skill-based weapon that's rewarding to use, but, to each his own. If you find success and you enjoy using the Coyote missiles, then by all means use them. But for me, I think the one I'm most excited about is really just going to be the Mass Driver. A high damage output weapon that rewards skill, aim, and accuracy. It may even be able to help you when you're talking about your nose gun as well, because if you're going to be good with the Mass Drivers, you really need to make sure that you're, lining up your shots well. So let's talk a little bit about who should use these and when you should be using these weapons. And again, this is all speculation because it was on the test server and now it's not on the test server and blah, blah, blah. But if they were released the way they stand right now, the Mass Driver does a damage of 500 out to 250 meters, and then goes to 250 at 500 meters. It does a lot of damage. It's got a fast bullet velocity of around 1500 meters per second. So with that in mind, the Mass Driver is excellent for engaging enemy fighters that you either sneak up on or are just a really good shot and can land them while you're in the middle of a dogfight. It's also really good for people that want to engage Liberators and Galaxies from further away. Basically, Mass Drivers, if you have good accuracy and are good at switching between your primary and secondary weapons, Mass Driver is going to be an excellent option for you. Now, the Locust Cannon is going to be good for also engaging the larger targets. Now, the reason I say it's good for engaging larger targets is because it has a bigger cone of fire. You're not going to be as accurate with these. So, when you're engaging a Liberator or a Galaxy, there's a lot more forgiveness for that cone of fire. There's a bigger target, so more of your rounds are going to hit. Now, it may be good, too, for just that sustained fire. Maybe if you don't have great accuracy when you're in dogfights, having 100 rounds without having to reload, then it still does pretty good damage, is a good option. So, it may be okay against ESFs, but it's probably not where it's actually going to shine. Now, for Coyote missiles, if you like air-to-air lock-on missiles, these may be fun for you. Now, you got to be someone that doesn't like to just sit back, pick people off with your lock-ons. If you're based on the short lock-on range, that's where the people that like to dogfight with air-to-air missiles may enjoy this. I've talked to a couple of my outfit mates who are excited about the Coyote missiles and say that they're looking forward to having that ability to be in dogfights and still have that secondary weapon that they think is going to be useful to them. I can see that, and I think it could be good. And really, these are going to shine against ESFs. They're not going to do a whole lot of damage to Liberators, and in general, you don't want to be that close to a Liberator anyway. So this is really going to be that air superiority, missile that you can use in close range. Another new thing that's coming that I think is kind of cool is the engagement radar. Now, it's a new development for the ESFs, and basically it places a dish on your craft, kind of like the Scout radar does. It's basically a forward-facing radar that when an enemy air vehicle passes your screen, you're going to have an on-screen display icon that points to the direction of their current location. Now, I haven't found numbers on how long this lasts or how many targets it can follow, how far it goes, etc., etc. And I haven't been able to test it out, and I don't even know if this was ever on the test server, but it's something that they're developing. So, even without knowing much about it, it still sounds like a pretty cool option, really. Now, is it worth giving up what it cost in exchange? Probably not, but if you have a hard time tracking your targets, this might be just an awesome option for you. It could probably also really help you against, dogfighters that are really strong and can kind of hover around you and use the reverse maneuver and reverse thrust and basically just breakdance in the sky. Even for a good pilot, being able to follow another pilot is going to be pretty helpful. So I think it's a cool development. One of the other changes is that the external fuel tanks are now going to have a cert line. Which is pretty awesome. That being said, though, I think the intention behind it is to cert yourself into the reverse maneuver ability and to pay more certs to have the ability to do what you can now. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a sec. As you cert into the fuel tanks, you're going to get longer afterburning ability, more fuel. With levels 2 and 4, you get more fuel. With levels 1, 3, and 5, all are going to increase the rate it replenishes. So it sounds cool, but I'm wondering how much they're taking away from what we have now, and how much they're going to have. You're going to have to really cert into these to get to where we're at today. If it's a pure upgrade from where we're at, I think it's an okay change. If it's taking away a ton off of what you already had the ability to do, and then you're going to have to cert back into where you're currently at, I think that's a little bit problematic. I'd even be okay if they met in the middle a little bit, because I do enjoy having the Afterburners as my primary dogfighting class, but, we'll just have to see. So, if you hadn't heard about the proposed changes to the ESFs, they were considering, and it was actually on the test server for a while, nerfing the ability to do the reverse maneuver. So here's something that was paraphrased from Higby. I think Hader wrote this down. So I'm just going to read this to you real quick. It's going to be a little bit long. But the reverse maneuver is a tactic that pilots use. Basically what you can do is really quickly put your aircraft into a stall. You can halt progress by rolling, blah, blah, blah. He explains the reverse maneuver. He said, and that's fine. It's a great maneuver, and they are really great pilots who use it to great effect. And it adds a lot of skill to the air-to-air gameplay. It's not really something that they want to remove or get rid of. However, right now, it's pretty much the differentiating factor between a pilot who's going to die in 5 seconds and someone who is going to survive in the air. It's not the only thing that can make you a really good pilot, but if you can't do it, then you can't fly, or you can't fly successfully. And right now, it's a little bit too much one size fits all. So you can see he's addressing that this skill-based maneuver is something that they're considering reworking, because it's hard for new pilots who don't know this ability. Now, I want to go ahead and say something real quick, that I understand it's frustrating when you're in the sky and there's a better pilot that's just working you over. It happens to me. I'm a really good pilot. I'm not the best pilot, though. I'll raise my hand and admit that to you guys right now. I'm not the best pilot out there. And it sucks when somebody just totally just shows you up. But at the same time, if you've got the right mentality and the right personality, you can say, that was awesome. How the hell did he do that, and how can I get better? Flying against people that are really, really good pilots makes you want to be better. So, I want to just jump back for a sec to what Higby was saying. Basically, he says that he really wants you to still be able to continue to do the reverse maneuver, but it might require you to do something like bring those fuel pods with you, which will make doing the reverse maneuver a little bit easier. Whereas somebody who maybe isn't as good of a pilot yet, maybe they haven't learned the reverse maneuver yet, or they're just interested in doing air-to-ground gameplay or something like that, they're going to bring rocket pods with them and give up their ability to really change direction quickly in the air. So, what he's talking about there is separating the roles, and that's something that I've talked about a little bit, in the previous vehicles or videos on how to fix the air-to-ground relationship. I think specific roles for these is important, but what I don't really understand is everybody is able to do the reverse maneuver, but you have to practice it. I don't understand why we're making a change to remove a skill-based move to accommodate new pilots. Again, I sympathize. I understand that it's frustrating, but anybody can go and learn through trial by fire like we all did, or go into the safety of the virtual reality zone, or even on the test server before these changes were made, and really learn there without penalty. Now, limiting the abilities of those that have honed their skills and honed their craft through practice to make life a bit easier for those that haven't put in the same time or reference doesn't make sense to me at all. I understand that we're still going to be able to cert into the fuel tanks, which may make the maneuver possible as it stands today, but my main question to all of this is why? Why do we need to make a change like this just to make life easier for newer pilots who haven't learned and practiced the same thing? That's where I get a little bit frustrated with this all. So, now, since then, the new weapons and changes to the reverse maneuver have been removed from the player test server, and they're planning on reworking and putting them back up, I think. Did they hear all the complaints on Reddit and the forums and decide that the afterburner changes and reverse maneuver changes just weren't necessary? I don't know. Who knows? I guess Higby and his crew probably do, but we don't. I know I don't want the reverse maneuver changes put in. But the new weapons provide some new dynamics, which I think is awesome, and it makes the choice between afterburner tanks or pods more difficult. Right now, I've got two primary loadouts. I'm either bringing pods for an all-around vehicle, or if I know I'm hunting air, I'm going to bring afterburner tanks. And that's great, because I think we need to actually have more options in there. So, ultimately, I guess it's kind of what I've been calling for a while now. Personally, I'm a bit nervous about it all, but really excited to see what actually makes it to live, what it does to the gameplay, and how it impacts overall balance. So, I think these changes outside of the reverse maneuver are very positive, and I want to thank the developers. You know, it's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm happy to see it. You know, let's just keep our fingers crossed that they're actually taking our feedback into account, not making significant changes to the reverse maneuver, because it doesn't need to happen. Now, the timing on these were really crappy, though. I mean, I've been on vacation and finally got moved into my new house and all that stuff, so I didn't have a ton of playtime with these new weapons while they were live. So I can't really talk about gameplay too much, and the reverse maneuver changes a whole lot. Now, at least with the reverse maneuver, I was able to play a little bit more than with the weapons, and I can tell you, I don't like the way the vehicles feel, the way they were implemented in the test server. They felt sluggish, it felt slow, flying became a little bit more boring, and you could see just dogfights were just very meh. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a better way to describe it than meh. You know, so, I mean, we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed and really hope that these things don't come to fruition, because I don't think they're necessary, and I don't like what it's doing to the air game itself. So, is flying and dogfighting still viable with the changes they made? Yes. Is it a necessary or a good change? No. So, you know, that's really all I have for today. If you guys have questions on these weapons, I'm happy to talk about it in the, you know, in the comments, so feel free to leave them down there. If you haven't yet, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and like the video, and I'll have a lot more stuff coming. So, again, thanks for sticking with me while I was out, and I will have a lot more coming soon. So, take care, guys.